There's a big fella in that bathroom, and he's wearing a monster mask.
Sir, I will have you know that William Shatner does not qualify as a monster, no matter what George Takei wrote about him in his autobiography. Jesse Shade here for Awfully Good Movies on behalf of the JoBlo YouTube network, and it simply isn't the Halloween season without binge-watching John Carpenter's revolutionary horror classic and the many sequels that it left in its wake, both the good ones and the good bad ones. And in between is this middle entry from David Gordon Green's trilogy of sequels brought to us by Blumhouse Productions, bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis and best described by the tagline for the original Halloween 2, "More of the night he came home." That means more kills, more blood, more Rusty Griswold, but it sadly doesn't mean more Jamie Lee Curtis and Judy Greer, and it certainly doesn't make any more sense. Yet much like every other Halloween sequel, there are plenty of fans out there who will stand up for its virtues despite its many mockable flaws. So let us open up this bag of candies and try to avoid any razor-bladed apples to discuss one of the few underwhelming sequels in the Michael Myers saga that carries an approval stamp as well as an amazing soundtrack from John Carpenter himself. As evil dies tonight, a comedy dies today in the Silver Shamrocking episode of Awfully Good Movies. With next year marking the release of a Halloween video game, the Michael Myers franchise is as hard to kill as the Shape himself, nearly 50 years after John Carpenter's original indie horror classic. With the 77-year-old Carpenter providing creative input and a new soundtrack not just for the upcoming game, but also the critically acclaimed smash hit 2018 reboot from Blumhouse Productions, alongside fellow executive producer and returning star Jamie Lee Curtis, where the otherwise comedic creative duo of director David Gordon Green and co-writer Danny McBride would ignore all the previous sequels and Rob Zombie reboots to end up making Michael Myers relevant and scary again for a whole new generation. But new franchise owner Malik Akkad was eager to follow in the footsteps of his late father Mustafa Akkad in wringing this series as dry as possible, which is how we got the first of two underwhelming sequels in 2021, with the appropriately brutally titled Halloween Kills. Though Green and McBride originally had an idea for one sequel in case of their first movie success, they would have enough material for two of them by the time Halloween 2018 broke all kinds of box office records, with the first emulating the original 1981 sequel that was also co-produced and scored by John Carpenter by having Laurie Strode laid up in the hospital the same night as her fight with Michael Myers, while he's outside slicing his way through the populace of Haddonfield to finish her off. But after its Halloween 2020 release was delayed by the real-life horror of the COVID pandemic, Universal and producer Jason Blum got the bright idea to drop both sequels simultaneously in theaters and on nobody's favorite streaming service, Peacock, which surprisingly led to Halloween Kills making a decent killing at the box office, even as the critics and audiences who largely loved the last one were as divided and angry as the citizens of Haddonfield were with those three instantly memeable words.
Evil dies tonight.
So having been a fan myself of the 2018 reboot as well as the underrated 1981 sequel, let us find out how this middle entry of the Blumhouse trilogy failed to have evil dying tonight, and paved the way a year later for David Gordon Green's even more divisive finale that you JoBlo viewers will probably end up seeing me review next Halloween, where Busta Rhymes returns as Freddy from Halloween Resurrection to take the place of Tom Atkins in a shot-for-shot all-black remake of Halloween 3, now newly subtitled Season of the Weirds.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, don't do it.
Hey, at least people would have liked that movie way more than they would Halloween Ends.
Happy Halloween.
Ah, Michael Myers. Ah, damn it.
Now it's time to get as drunk as John Carpenter did when he wrote Halloween 2 and ring in the witching season with the awfully good drinking game. Take a shot or drink as we meet back up on Halloween 2018 with some of the newer characters from the last movie. Cameron, the recently dumped boyfriend of Laurie Strode's granddaughter, is seen dressed in drag calling up his buddy Oscar after Michael impaled his head on a fence post. Damn it! When Cam comes across the bleeding but conscious body of Deputy Sheriff Frank Hawkins, played again by Will Patton, who survived getting stabbed by Michael's new doctor for trying to stop his evil plans and swears to bring down the fabled boogeyman himself.
He needs to die, and I'm the one that's gonna get him.
We find out why in this flashback to the fateful night of Halloween 1978, where the young deputy and his partner Pete McCabe are among the many Haddonfield cops trying to clear the streets of kids so they can stop the fleeing Michael Myers. Played again physically by James Jude Courtney, with breathing sounds from original Michael Myers, Nick Castle.
Loomis said he shot him multiple times in the chest.
I shot him 6 times.
And these cops shoo off a gang of bullies while they're in the middle of tormenting the young Ronnie Elam, the red-jacketed school bully who tripped Tommy Doyle in the first movie, right before the boy crosses Michael's path on his way home, and the cops save Lonnie's ass by chasing the maniac off inside of his old family home.
There's a dead dog in here. Haddonfield, where nothing exciting ever happened.
Don't you talk shit about my hometown like that! Haddonfield is a great place to raise your kids, so that I can end up killing them every October! But with his itchy trigger finger, Hawkins accidentally shoots his partner in the throat instead of Michael, and assures the dying man of Michael's capture while we hear in the back a most familiar voice.
What happened in here? Did Michael kill again?
Dr. Samuel Loomis, who's been miraculously brought back long after Donald Pleasance's death, thanks not to AI, but the film crew's construction coordinator, Tom Jones Jr., having his resemblance to Loomis augmented by some great makeup and a voice dub from the guy who voiced Loomis in the last movie's flashbacks. It's this incredible attention to detail from the 78 original that makes this a most promising opening sequence, followed by an amazing credit sequence scored by the maestro himself, alongside John's son Cody Carpenter and his musical partner Daniel Davies, where we see 12 flaming pumpkins representing each of the 12 movies, or rather 13, that now make up this franchise. Kudos to them not replacing the ones that represent the Rob Zombie movies with flaming bags of dog shit.
Poop again.
Then it's back to Halloween 2018 at a Haddonfield dive bar that is holding a talent show for the untalented locals, or who should be commemorating the 40th anniversary of the Myers Massacre, but a group of its survivors who have coincidentally bonded in their trauma to become best friends.
That almost got killed by Michael Myers.
There's Lindsay Wallace, the girl who was being babysat by the late Annie Brackett, played again by the now grown Kyle Richards. Then Marion Chambers, the nurse who accompanied Loomis during Michael's escape in '78, played again by Nancy Stevens after she'd already returned for Halloween's 2 and H2O. Lonnie Elam, the now grown and alcoholic father to his teenage son Cameron, played here by Robert Longstreet to replace original actor Brent LePage. And the leader of this breakfast club, Anthony Michael Hall, playing the fully grown other kid who had fled from the boogeyman back in '78.
My name is Tommy Doyle. I was that young boy.
Tommy Doyle.
That's right, folks, the same Tommy Doyle who was played by a young Paul Rudd in Halloween 6. With Rudd turning down the producer's offer to return as this new timeline's Tommy Doyle, since the Halloween universe has now become as hard to follow as the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
This is for you, Laurie, wherever you are.
While Laurie's a bit preoccupied at the moment, bleeding out in the back of a pickup truck alongside her daughter Karen and granddaughter Allison, played again by Judy Greer and Andy Matichak, right after the women locked Michael's ass inside the basement of Laurie's burning cabin, which unfortunately gets tended to by some firefighters who find Michael hiding out inside of a fireproof gun cabinet. And he thanks our first responders by caving their helmets in with a pickaxe. except for one he takes out with a rotary saw to his fucking face. This is what our high school shop teachers warned us about, people. Yes, it may be a cop-out for this sequel to sideline Jamie Lee Curtis in a hospital bed for most of the action, just as much as it was in the original Halloween 2, but it does give the great Judy Greer a chance to shine, now that Karen Strode's optimistic attitude towards life has been brutally murdered alongside her husband.
Dad's gone. He'll always be with us.
Plus, we brought back Charles Cyphers in his last role before his death in 2024 as former Sheriff Lee Brackett, still mourning his own family loss at Michael Myers' hands and somehow employed as a hospital security guard well into his 80s. Unfortunately, they take a backseat to the annoyingly quirky residents of 2018-era Haddonfield, who were the weakest part of the last movie and are even more unfunny in this movie. Beginning with Letty Clark of the FX dramedy Rescue Me as the wisecracking husband of a sassy black wife, surprisingly not played by Borat's wife, playing with a recently bought drone that ends up broken by the elderly 6-foot psychopath hiding out in their bathroom, who gets to stabbing his throat with broken glass, stabbing her throat with even more broken glass, and then letting the dying woman watch him use her husband's corpse as a pin cushion for their knife collection, like he's John Wick picking out a gun from the closet. Man, how much more horrific can you get than that?
Goblins will get you if you don't watch out.
Oh, sweet Christ, I just had to ask. It's the gay couple that has moved into Michael's childhood home, a pair of realtors both named John, who distinguished themselves with the names Big John and Little John, played respectively by Scott MacArthur from The Mick and Michael McDonald from Mad TV. Yes, the guy who played Stewart.
Look what I can do!
Though I like that these characters aren't written as gay stereotypes, they're just here to follow the tried and true franchise tradition of expositioning about the first movie, so they can scare these prank-playing punk kids off of their lawn, after which they smoke some of Danny McBride's personal weed stash and get to cracking some lame-ass sitcom jokes.
Don't you know whose house this was?
Honey, we don't want to get sued.
The least funny of which is these two men calling out each other's names approximately 11 million times.
Little John?
Big John.
Little John?
Big John.
Big John?
Yes, Little John.
Yeah! What? Okay!
Why can't they just act like a normal couple that refers to each other by saying, "Hey babe"? Back at the bar, the news breaks on TV about Michael Myers' return to babysitter slaughter, with the childhood photo of Bob Odenkirk substituting in place of Bob Sims from the original, just as an oppositely costumed doctor, wife, and nurse husband find somebody sleeping in the back of their car, and Tommy Doyle is ready to take the shape down with a baseball bat behind the bar named Old Huckleberry in memory of Val Kilmer.
Swing old Huckleberry here. Say night-night.
Man, who would have thought Michael Myers had such a beautiful singing voice for opera? Actually, the guy who hijacked and crashed this car is Michael's fellow asylum inmate, who was seen in the first movie carrying an umbrella, who looks more like the love child of Danny DeVito and Wallace Shawn than he does the significantly taller Michael Myers. But that sure won't stop Tommy from roaming the streets for his ass while assembling a gang of fellow justice-minded vigilantes the same way Homer Simpson did to patrol the streets of Springfield.
It's not safe to be out. Go! It's not safe to be out.
Return to your homes and places of businesses.
After which he stupidly splits them off into one group made up of Tommy, the gun-toting Lonnie Elam, his son Cameron, and his ex-girlfriend Allison, and another group made up of Dr. Vanessa, Nurse Marcus, Nurse Marion, and one of the real housewives, who helps those punk kids from earlier flee from the oncoming boogeyman after their friend gets his head chopped off with a rather familiar-looking mask. And Marion is ready to have her vengeance on behalf of the long-dead Dr. she only met one time 40 years ago.
This is for Dr. Loomis.
No more bullets.
But instead gets sliced up by Michael as badly as in the last timeline, while Marcus gets a knife through his brain and Vanessa gets a bullet through her brain in perhaps the dumbest yet funniest death scene in all of Halloween history. God damn, these cell phones really are making people stupider nowadays, which makes it way easier for me to slaughter them. Score! Lindsay nearly unmasks the maniac herself, but then escapes him by just lying down perfectly still out in the woods, until she's discovered by Tommy and Lonnie alongside the murdered corpses that indeed are wearing the same silver shamrock mask from the unrelated third entry, Season of the Witch, of which David Gordon Green is a fan himself. But at least I was more invested in that film's characters than in these grown-up kids and their traumatized adulthoods, who we're supposed to treat as if we've grown up with them over all 40 years of this franchise, a number which this movie drops frequently.
40 years ago.
I remember him from 40 years ago.
40 years.
40 years ago!
They also leave little room for Jamie Lee Curtis having much to do, even after she was such an incredible and essential part of that last movie, other than some solid romantic chemistry with Will Patton when he becomes her hospital roommate, where she spends most of the film unaware that Michael Myers is even still alive.
We burned him to the goddamn ground.
That is, until Tommy barges in to tell Laurie about the angry mob he's got gathered in the hospital lobby to protect her from the Haddonfield slasher.
40 years ago.
40 years ago!
You protected me. So tonight I'm gonna protect you.
What do?
We fight.
And Laurie has no choice but to get out of bed and dull the pain of her stitches with a 50cc injection of extra-strength poop yogurt.
Get the fuck out of my way.
No, Dad, what are you doing?
Say, gang, which catchphrase should we use to hunt down this escaped mental patient whom we presume is Michael Myers?
Love lives today.
But evil dies tonight.
Why, of course. Let's bash that phrase into the audience's heads just about as many times as they say the word fuck in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Evil dies tonight!
Evil dies tonight!
Evil dies tonight. He dies tonight.
Evil dies 40 years ago! Evil dies tonight!
Evil dies tonight!
Evil dies tonight!
Hail Whitey!
We want Chili Willy! We want Chili Willy!
It's a madhouse!
And Jamie Lee Curtis was quick to compare this Angry Mob subplot with some of the socio-political protest movements of the past few years.
No, Sheriff, we have watched your department fail tonight!
Well, the system failed.
But aside from that flimsy political context, the way it's presented feels like a visual gag out of one of David Gordon Green and Danny McBride's comedies together, that ignores the giant gaping plot hole that enough people have seen enough of Michael Myers to know that 1, he's tall, 2, he's got a blue jumpsuit, and 3, he's wearing the bleached facial skin of William Shatner. And this penguin-looking motherfucker meets none of these simple visual criteria. And even dumber, Laurie pops her stitches almost immediately trying to whoop a doctor's ass in the hallway. So Grandma has to go back to bed while Karen tries to keep this patient safe from the hands of the bloodthirsty mob. Only for the cornered Oswald Cobblepot to have no choice but to recreate Jamie Lee Curtis's death scene from Halloween Resurrection. Guys, I'm starting to think that this guy wasn't evil. No, the real Michael is back at his family house up against the little-knifed Big John and big-knifed Little John, the former of whom gets stabbed in the armpit and then gouged in the eyeballs,
Where are my eyes? Don't step on my eyeballs!
thus making Michael McDonald the only actor in film history to have been murdered on screen by both Michael Myers and Mike Myers in the first Austin Powers movie, despite both of them having been quite slow enough to just easily run away from. And though the sequel wisely gets rid of Halloween 2's infamously stupid twist of Laurie and Michael being brother and sister, it gets replaced by a whole bunch of soap opera storylines that go nowhere. Deputy Hawkins confesses that he saved Michael back in 1978 from being finished off by Dr. Loomis's bullets, and then covered up the accidental shooting of his partner. Karen Strode allies herself with Tommy Doyle so she can take her mom's place in finishing off Michael for good, even if she is wearing a Christmas sweater on Halloween. And Lonnie Elam tries to do his son proud for once by going in alone to the Myers home with a gun to stop the Shape himself. Guess how that turns out? So that means Allison and Cameron are left to search the house for Michael, only to find he's amusingly displayed the bodies of Big and Little John to a vinyl record playing the smooth sounds of country music legend Anne Murray.
Call now for Anne Murray's inspirational favorites.
Before he pops back up to ram Cameron's head through a banister and then snap his neck. And Allison gets saved from the same fate by a pitchfork through his back from her newly badass mom.
You want your mask?
Come and get it!
So Karen lures Michael out into the street with his stolen mask, right into a trap that's got him surrounded by the angry mob.
It's Halloween. Everyone's entitled to one good scare.
Hell yeah, just like Janet Leigh said in Halloween H2O. And hilariously, the townspeople beat Michael's ass like a piñata with wooden boards and metal pipes with a few gunshots for good measure, to the point of Karen finishing him off with his kitchen knife plunged right through his back, which Laurie herself will surely confirm to be the last we will ever see of Michael Myers.
The more he kills, the more he transcends into something impossible to defeat.
No, of course not. We've got one more movie ahead of us. So the newly strengthened Michael takes the knife out of his back and proceeds to slice up just about everybody in this angry mob, like a really fucked up gag from a Naked Gun movie, including former Sheriff Brackett and the bat-wielding Tommy Doyle, who had way more luck killing this guy with a blunt instrument back when he was Paul Rudd.
If they don't stop him tonight, maybe we'll find him tomorrow.
Well, the catchphrase wasn't "evil dies tomorrow," now was it, Laurie? That one is way less hashtagable. And to end things on even more of a bummer note, Karen walks into the Myers house to look out the window that Michael stared out all the time during his childhood, only for him to somehow get past the cops outside and slice Karen up to pieces, in a clever homage to the shower death scene of Jamie Lee's mom, Janet Leigh, in Psycho. Suck on that, Gus Van Sant. You're not the only free-named indie director who can pay homage to Hitchcock. And while the theatrical cut that I watched on Peacock in 2021 ends right here with Laurie in the hospital sensing a disturbance in the force, the extended cut that came out later on Blu-ray that has even more blood and longer kills also had an additional ending scene that would have led right into Halloween Ends the next year, where Laurie calls Karen on her cell phone, Michael picks up breathing into the other end, and she makes him a promise on behalf of her dead daughter.
I'm coming for you, Michael.
I'm coming to get you.
Now, why did this ending get cut? Because David Gordon Green thought it suggested that Halloween Ends would then take place on the few remaining hours of Halloween Night 2018, instead of its actual setting 4 years later on Halloween 2022. As if that would end up being the biggest disappointment with Halloween Ends, and not that Laurie Strode's much-hyped final match against Michael Myers will end up taking place in that movie's final 30 minutes, while the rest of it focuses on some other wiener with a kitchen knife and Halloween mask who makes an even worse Michael Myers replacement than Ben Tramer in Halloween 2! The reason that first Halloween reboot was effective was how it brought back the simplicity to the Michael Myers legend, and how we can still be scary in a world where social media and the news informs us of even scarier things all the damn time.
There's a lot worse stuff that's happening today. A couple people getting killed by one guy with a knife is not that big of a deal.
But while Halloween Kills thankfully keeps the shape as a mysterious force of nature without any silly backstory or motivation, it ends up repeating every other mistake that has weighed down previous sequels. The stupid scenes of comic relief that go on too long, new characters that are just there to serve as stupid slasher bait, and never-ending speeches about Michael Myers' unknowable evil that were better delivered by the late great Donald Pleasance.
You've come home.
Go home!
However, it does truly live up to the kills part of its title with some of the most memorable murders of the franchise. And John Carpenter's amazing score makes all the difference in creating an atmosphere that so many of these sequels and other remakes of his work have lacked without his input. It's the rare bad Halloween movie that feels like it was made by a true fan, And compared to how much of a grim bummer Halloween Ends and David Gordon Green's next horror reboot would turn out to be, Halloween Kills is a far more awfully good way to close out the witching season. And hey, reviewing this movie gave me an excuse to delay when I will inevitably have to do a review on the true evil that is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
It needs to die.
On the enjoyableness continuum scale from Bull to Bruce, Halloween Kills is a Jamie Lee Curtis legacy sequel that surprisingly has just as many laughs as Freakier Friday. And Evil Dies Tonight with a Halloween 6 out of 10. Now, was that really a much better sequel than Halloween Resurrection?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Until next time, this is Jesse Shade on behalf of Awfully Good Movies, wishing all of you out there a most happy Halloween. Except to Michael Myers for his disgraceful behavior at the Oscars towards Jamie Lee Curtis after she beat him for Best Supporting Actress.
I just want an Oscar.
Goblins will get you if you don't watch out. They take you and shake you until you shout. Stop, look, and listen. It's Halloween.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.